thank you all for, joining the English web conference on, Dr. M.P. Sivanyanam, Ma.Po.Si, on the occasion of his 115th birthday anniversary, which falls tomorrow. We have a legendary speakers participating in the session today. First, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Krishnaswamy. He's one of the finest documentary filmmakers in the world. In 2009, he received the Padma Shri Award from the Government of India. In 2020, he received the V. Shantaram Lifetime Achievement Award, and not to forget, Dr. S. Krishnaswamy sir also received the Lifetime Ma.Po.Si Award as well in the year 2016. Next speaker we have is Dr. Vavesu. Again, he's a legend in his own right. He's a former principal of Vivekananda College. He's an educationalist. He's a fantastic and a prolific speaker. Many of you have already would have seen on YouTube or some of the literary Tamil festivals. Again, on behalf of us, Vavesu uncle, I welcome you for the the web conference. Third, we have Karthikeyan Pethuswamy, one of the young bubbling generations from our state. He's a research associate from AIMS. Karthikeyan, again, once again, thank you for joining this session. And finally, myself, Ma.Po.Si, not much to talk about myself, except for the tagline that I'm a grandson of the great man. So without much delay, I would hand it over to Dr. S. Krishnaswamy sir to talk about Ma.Po.Si on the topic, Ma.Po.Si, the epitome of equality. Thank you, sir, for joining, and I hand it over to you.
Well, I must start by saying it is an immense pleasure, gives me immense pleasure to participate in this and share my thoughts on the inimitable leader of the Tamil people, Dr. Ma.Po.Si. I'm grateful to Ms. Madhavi Bhaskaran and to Sendil for asking me to participate in this. Well, I'm not as fast as I used to be because, after all, 82 is an age to count. And that's what I will be in a few days. Let me start with some recollections. About 30 years ago, there was a meeting organized by a group of journalists in which I was one of the speakers. Who else but Silambu Chelvar himself was the principal speaker and chief guest of that evening. In my speech, I paid my tribute to him and said that to me, he was a mentor of sorts. I put him on the same pedestal as the Paramacharya of Kanchi, my Kula Guru, and Swami Vivekananda, my Ishta Guru. Next only to these saints, I hold Silambu Chelvar, which I publicly declared on that day as my mentor and a model to follow. The speciality of Dr. Ma.Po.Si is that he was immensely talented, gifted in his political thought and action as a scholar, as a statesman, orator, writer, freedom fighter, and a tallest holder of Tamil heritage and culture. Above all, as a genuinely sincere human being who treated people as equals without distinction whatsoever on the basis of caste, creed, religion, and other divisions created by man. He was such a universal person of dignity combined with simplicity for those who understood him. I underlined those who understood him. Although I am familiar with 60 to 70% of his writings, I have no intention of quoting from any of them here, because many of you are or may be much more familiar than I am with his literary genius, political acumen, and social standing. I would like to mention what influences I derived from him, what inspiration I got from him, and the opportunities in which I could be in close connection, close contact with him, by which I understood that here is an epitome of human equality. A person who reflects that thought, that idea, that all human beings are created equal. And it was not a thrust idea for him from outside. It was an inborn trait. It came to him naturally. It's no exaggeration to say that Tamil Nadu has not seen another personality of his stature, erudition, and compassion all rolled into one, with uncompromising commitment to the common man. His regional pride never interfered with his love for the country as a whole, to Bharat Mata in short. Let me deviate for a moment and talk about something else to drive home a point. In the mid-1980s, I was invited to address the International Institute of Communications at Strasbourg in France. The event was held at the headquarters of the European Parliament. The only other speaker from India was Mr. I.K. Gujral, who had just laid down his office as ambassador to Moscow. But he was already very well established with international reputation for his caliber and wisdom. He was there. He had already been a member of the cabinet before he went to Moscow. And therefore, everybody, more or less, the audience knew him, while hardly anybody knew me, except a few. Now, my turn came, and the person who was introducing the speakers, the anchor, as you call, said, Dr. Krishnaswamy from India is the next speaker. He's a documentary filmmaker. So I got up and went to the rostrum. Before I could say a few words, Mr. Gujral intervened and said, let me seek the permission of the chair to say a few words before he speaks. So naturally, everybody waited. And Gujral went on to say that, give the titles of my important films, the nature of awards that I had won, my role as a film historian, film researcher, and writer on cinema, etc. And he, after paying rich tributes, he went and sat down in his place. So now I started talking, and it had a dramatic effect because a minister, former minister, ambassador, VIP, took the trouble of coming without any notice and without the program mentioning it, to speak about a fellow speaker. Anyway, I spoke for 15 minutes and answered questions for another 15 minutes. I'm not going into the details of what I spoke because that's not relevant for this occasion. At the end of the day, I went up to Mr. Gujral and profusely thanked him. The only other person with me, apart from Mr. Gujral, was my wife, Dr. Mohana. And so when I told him this, He laughed, patted me on the back and said, "Look, I am not doing you any favor for two reasons. One, I know you deserve every word of what I said. More than that, I have an apprehension, an observation that wherever I go, no two Indian delegates see eye to eye in an international conference. In fact, every Indian delegate thinks he is more important than the other. And he refuses, rather unconsciously promotes himself and not the fellow speaker who has also come from India. This is a unique tradition, which is unfortunate as far as the Indian representation in the international conferences is concerned. So he went on to say, no, I wanted you to be heard. Otherwise, they will say some documentary filmmaker has come and nobody may listen to you. So then the attention was perfect after that. The reason I mentioned that is very often Indians don't promote other Indians. And one such person to whom history has not done enough justice. Of course, I'm talking of a much bigger man than I am, but I had to use a personal reference to make the point. The person to whom history has not done justice is none other than Dr. Ma.Po.Si himself. Silambu Chelva I think just because he could not speak English fluently, his profound caliber and leadership qualities were not adequately recognized, not only in the rest of India, but also in his own birthplace in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu, his immense contribution to Tamil language and culture were not shining in front of the political propaganda machinery that was used by several other people to promote themselves or those who were close to them in terms of ideology, if any. As a result, he differed from several of those leaders because he could not merge with any atheist groups. An unfortunate thing in Tamil Nadu is that Tamil language has been promoted as though it is an anti-religious or rather an anti-Hindu language, which Ma.Po.Si would never accept. They even conducted a World Tamil Conference a couple of decades ago, in which there was no mention of Kamban, Alvars, Nayanars, as though Tamil literature started only with the Dravidian party leaders in the 20th century. Dr. Ma.Po.Si stands out of that crowd with conviction and distinction. His greatness was not only because he was not merely a self-taught person of the literature of the Sangam era, but he also became the father figure of propagating its importance to the new generations. When the most important saint poet of recent centuries, Ramalinga Adigalar, was looked down upon by some socially important sections, both Brahmin and high caste non-Brahmins, the person who came forward to understand him and promote him, write about him, and win substantial recognition to Tamil Nadu by writing his biography, getting the arguably the first Tamil author, becoming the first Tamil author to get the Sahitya Academy Award. He respected the literary quality and divinity of ancient Tamil spiritual texts like Thevaram and Tiruvachakam. When a section of people almost boycotted Bharati over the decades just because he was a Brahmin, Ma.Po.Si Ayya was in the forefront of recognizing the greatness of Bharati. He recognized merit wherever he found it. Being born in a low caste, Ma.Po.Si faced every kind of discrimination over the years. During the freedom struggle, a famous high caste leader of the Tamil Nadu Congress Committee invited Ma.Po.Si along with a few other Congress leaders to a meeting in the said leader's house. After the meeting, he invited everybody to lunch at his house, mind you, excluding the low caste Ma.Po.Si. He had organized a servant to take Ma.Po.Si alone to a nearby hotel, while the others, such as others with such acceptance of the norm, walked in for lunch. One Brahmin guest revolted and joined Kiramanyar, walked out with him, making neither a fuss nor creating a scene. That was the later day communist stalwart P. Ramamurthy. On another occasion, when Ma.Po.Si visited a non-Brahmin but high caste Hindu leader, he alone was served with water and a silver tumbler, while copper tumblers were given to others. Don't for a moment think that was a result of any special treatment of honor to this low caste leader. On the contrary, it was so because a silver vessel was considered to be beyond pollution. It is I've been having this problem of what is called a myasthenia gravis. Sorry to divert. That is a kind of situation where your nerves don't cooperate. So out of enthusiasm, or rather over enthusiasm, I accept assignments like this, which are close to my heart, and I try my best to manage the situation.
I don't know that.
To cut the story short, I was talking about his well, let me jump to the topic, which is primary to me. It is difficult to define Silambichelvar because on top of all this, he was of the same stature as Rabindranath Tagore, but it so happened that Tagore, he was not, Tagore was able to speak English fluently, which Ma.Po.Si was not. And my theme today is that I have heard the speech of the several delegates to the United Nations General Assembly in person when I was working there. And similarly at the assembly at UNESCO. Nowhere is there a complex against Russian leaders, Portuguese, French, or Chinese, or any other language. In fact, there will be no such apprehension about speaking in Tamil. There should be none. Occasionally, Hindi has also been spoken in the UN. I have no idea about anybody speaking Tamil, but only quoted some lines from Tamil from Thirukkural. It has been done once by Sri Lankan Tamils and not from Tamilians of Tamil Nadu. The reason to talk about this at present is if Gorbachev can speak Russian, why not Ma.Po.Si Tamil? Our own people have an inferiority complex, and the spirit of competition to be in the forefront was not limited to political thinking. In fact, it was more in political lobbying. That kind of political lobbying pushed people like Ma.Po.Si to lower ranks. And to that extent, India lost those years because these people did not push the country forward instead of promoting themselves, their castes. Ma.Po.Si always cared for Tamil Nadu. And because of that quality, he never promoted himself. And you find that none of his descendants are political leaders of importance today. Sorry for such interruptions. I requested Silambu to be my consultant and guide when I wanted to make a film on the history of freedom struggle with special reference to Tamil Nadu. I called it Elu Talaimurai Eluchi. I tried my best to find literature and found there was hardly anything in existence. Then I heard that Dr. Ma.Po.Si had worked on it and that his book was going to come out, which eventually did, which he called Vidudalai Poril Tamilagam. I was wondering up to that point, how come that the books on history of freedom struggle don't ever mention about the people in Tamil Nadu, but we're talking about Punjab, Rajasthan, Haryana, whatever, all other states of India, not about this. Then I explained in some detail how it came to be that Tamil Nadu was not properly featured. When I spoke at the time of receiving the Ma.Po.Si award, I concentrated on that. So I will not like to repeat that now. In the process, I requested the distinguished great man to help and give consultancy. He very magnanimously gave his print proof of his book, which was getting printed, and said, look at this, study this and come back for any doubts, which I did. And I found it amazing that the kind of information that was there, the kind of research that had gone into it was of a magnitude and quality that is very difficult to describe. So I went and talked to him and said I will take the liberty of consulting him as and when required. I wrote the script. Then I have to describe at this point in time what a easy person he was to deal with. He never put on airs, never talked about his stature vis-a-vis a filmmaker who has come to make a film on history. He knew that I had made other films on Indian history, but this topic was very dear to him and became dear to me. He knew where to draw the line. He could never interfere with the creativity of the production. He would never interfere with what was beyond his role as a consultant. It does not mean that he was not involved. He was very involved. And sometimes he made comments which were, well, I'll give you, for instance, what comes to my mind immediately. At some point in time, he said he was all appreciative of the whole thing. And eventually he helped me a great deal. At the time it went to court because there were controversies about what I had said in the film. But eventually the judgment was in our favor. But at that point in time, he, at one stage, he said, at this point, stop the film. And he went on to say, what you are saying here is very valid. It's historically true, but think of it for a moment. You are, after all, a communications man, and you should see that the audience is able to react correctly to what you are saying. Truth should also come out in a manner and from such quarters that it can be easily digested. I said, I don't understand. If you think it is truth, then what is wrong in what I'm saying? He said, no. What is wrong is that you are narrating it. You are yourself the narrator of the film. I said, yes, so what? He said, everywhere else you are very good as a narrator, not in this place. Then I again said, why? He said, a Brahmin cannot afford to say this because it will be treated as a prejudice. You will be, the forces that have built up around the anti-Brahmin movement are so strong, they will find a loophole to attack you and say that this is done with prejudice. Whereas there is no prejudice in this. What you are saying is very valid. I told him, it's fantastic. So if you want me to change, I will change it. He said, I will not say I want you to change. It is your film. I am only advisor. So if you think my advice is correct, change it in some fashion that becomes more palatable to those who will oppose it otherwise. I said, fine, I will do that. And I showed it to him within 10 minutes. He said, oh, this is fine. This is how you should narrate it. So I changed it in the film. This is just one example of how he functioned as a consultant without putting on airs of his age and quality and position and experience. Now, if you look back on the two cast episodes that I talked about, most other people in that situation would react by kindling hatred. If you have been insulted because of your birth, the first reaction is that you begin to hate people who did that, and you also then you propagate the same kind of prejudices. Ma.Po.Si was far from that. He was not any of that. He had no such quality of prejudice. He was above all such differences. He had grown out of all that, and he was truly what you may call in Sanskrit a Brahma Rishi. If Sri Ramakrishna was there, he would have called him a Rishi. That kind of spiritual maturity he had attained, in spite of being involved in day-to-day politics and so on. Now, the next thing I went to him was that I wanted to make, I said, my company's objective, we have a statement of objectives when I started the company in 1963, which says, we film to build bridges of brotherhood. We shoot to destroy walls of prejudice. Towards this, I want to make Silappadigaram and Manimekalai in Hindi. Because as much as the Tamil people know about various North Indian tales and literature, nobody there knows that Tamil has a literature which is 2,000 years old. He said, that's a very good idea. Why don't you make it in Hindi? Which was excellent, because I thought a prejudiced Tamil chauvinist in that place would have said, why make Hindi? It's our language, you make it in Tamil. Now, for the Tamilian, this was not going to be anything new. But although you can make Silappadigaram any number of times in different ways. But I said we should project ourselves to the rest of the country. And he said, yes, go ahead and do this. I had applied already to the government of India, to the film, to the Doordarshan, and giving my project report, everything. And I said, now I am in that stage where I only need your advice. He said, oh, that is fine. I didn't know that you have done so much already. And since my wife is a Hindi scholar, we employed another Hindi writer whose work she could supervise. I wrote a screenplay in Tamil. Balampuri Somanathan wrote the dialogue in Tamil. We got it all translated in Hindi. And we were ready. We had just started shooting. We again, whether Kannagi faced a court drama or not, we faced a court drama because we were opposed in this process. And who else but Salambu Selvar came to our rescue. And he said, no, there is no question of asking tender and so on and so forth. This is the subject which he has proposed, which he has asked the government to produce for the ministry, and therefore there is no question of asking somebody else. There is no question of floating a tender. And eventually, of course, we lost the case at the High Court level at the single judge. We went on appeal to the division bench, and we won the case at that point in time. It became a huge success. The serial which we call Upasana, it combines both Silappatikaram and Manimekalai as one long serial, and it's telecast almost every year, even now. We made it about almost 27 years ago, something like that. And Doordarshan has managed to export it. It is being shown in many parts of the world. I hear about it where I go. Now, my daughters, Lata and Geeta, have acted in that. Lata as Manimekalai and Geeta as Kannagi. One day, we never got Ayya into our set normally. Ayya came only on, suddenly he would say, are you shooting today? Can I come? And he probably, out of the 100 days or more that we were shooting, he came for 2 or 3 days. He came one day, and Geeta was shooting as Kannagi. She walked up and immediately performed, touched his feet. And he said, no, you should not do this. So she was perturbed. He said, why? All of us were surprised. And he said, no, Kannagi is a goddess. She cannot bow before a man. And that kind of intense involvement of a person to say that a youngster should not perform pranams to him because she was wearing the robes of a Kannagi. So eventually when she said, no, I have to perform this to you. And he said, no, in that case, you do one thing. After the serial is entirely completed, you come and take my blessings. Then I will accept your namaskar, because at this point in time, I look upon you as Kannagi. That was the sense of involvement, the emotion with which he looked at literature, the emotion with which he looked at creativity. If you go to, now that I will be exceeding my time if I go on. The only thing that I am very worried about, concerned about, is that he has not got the kind of recognition that he ought to have got. He is he should have got at least a Bharat Ratna. I will not be satisfied with anything less than that for Ma.Po.Si. He is not just father of Tamil Nadu. He is, yes, but he's not just that. He is much more than that. He protested against a system. He won the hearts of millions, and on top of that, he never benefited personally at any point. When he was asked to, well, let me not jump the scene. I have seen him at different times of different moods, but he has been the same person with the same equanimity and reflecting on people. He has never discriminated against anybody for any reason. I have found him in various circumstances, including those who were opposed to him. He has been very generous to them. Now, I don't know how much of this I should say, but I've had the privilege of talking to him exclusively, and he's narrating personal incidents in which other political leaders are involved, and about their mannerisms, his jokes, his jokes about other people. He was a very young man at heart. He remained young all through his age. His maturity and his philosophy never interfered with his youth in terms of thinking. that was the greatness of this man. I'm sorry, I'm putting various ideas together and probably not very cogently, because I'm not Ma.Po.Si to be young at 82. If you had asked me to speak 4 years ago, I would have done it better. Now, he was a genius in all respects. There are several other things which one can talk about him, like his starting from scratch. He's not going to formal education, but in some ways, formal education is a stumbling block to original thinking and development. Education has been, I will say, education has become the cause of ignorance. The kind of education that we all get in schools and colleges is a root cause of ignorance of our culture, ignorance of our language, ignorance of our, in fact, promoting a culture of competition, not a culture of healthy competition, but a culture of unhealthy competition in values and so on. And he was above all that. He never cared to amass wealth. It's very difficult to find another Ma.Po.Si. That's all that I can say. He was a genius par excellence, but he was an extraordinary human being. He never carried the weight of all that he had gone through in his young age, the insults that he had borne because of his birth, and he had grown out of all that. He was an immensely a magnificent person, a soul worth worshipping. I'm sorry, I've exceeded my length, and I'm very grateful again to Sendil and his colleagues for asking me to participate and speak here. With best wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the fantastic speech. It's a privilege to have one of the finest documentary filmmakers in the world join us on this occasion. Speak to us. I had the privilege personally to see you in close quarters with Ma.Po.Si during my childhood days, and I have some faint memories of those your visits to Ma.Po.Si's house for Upasana. Those would always strongly stay in my memory. I think it's a blessing for the younger generation to hear you out. I think this is something that they should hear. I'm sure that with more of these coming into social media, this being published on YouTube and other channels, it should be coming as a good information for them to hear, and it also teaches them the values that Ma.Po.Si propagated. And what a fantastic person that this century, the previous century has ever seen on this soil. Thank you, sir.
If I may be permitted to say two more words
Sure,
before I hand it over to my most distinguished Vavesu, for whom I have very great regard. It is I think the time is opportune now to move the government of India to see that he gets the kind of recognition, because you cannot get a better prime minister than Narendra Modi. We are in a very happy situation to have a person like that without prejudice, who is capable of understanding the situation. And Tamil Nadu, after all, has got to be rescued in a sense, and that rescue mission, promoting Ma.Po.Si, is a very important element. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the kind words again.
Thank you. Good evening to all. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, so we
I
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Keep going. Yeah.
Yes. Before starting my talk, I would like to thank Dr. S. Krishnami. What a wonderful way of presenting his own association with the great giant Ma.Po.Si. And it's very rare that people would get that kind of an opportunity. So thank you, sir, for sharing. Thank you. And on this occasion, it's my privilege to be amongst the speakers to participate in the 115th birth centenary of Ma.Po.Si, Dr. Ma.Po.Si. But almost all years and all birthday celebrations I have participated. It's not as if this is the first time. And it always gives me a great pleasure to talk about Dr. Ma.Po.Si, whom I know personally, and we had certain interactions also, but not as deep and enlarged as one like that of Dr. Krishnaswamy. So I am today to present to you a topic, literature par excellence on Ma.Po.Si. When people ask me what is the meaning of this, I mean, basically literature is a French word used in English, and it means a literary giant with no comparison, who is very excellent. So when people said, what kind of a topic is this? I said, it is about a literary giant. And normally, a person with a famed academic qualifications and who have graced the great portals of universities and departments, and these are the kind of persons those have been called the literary giants. And here we have got a humble personality like Dr. Ma.Po.Si, who was basically a school dropout. He could not continue school.
Not getting audio.
Yeah, I think he's kept it on mute, sir. Just trying to unmute him now.
Not getting your audio, sir.
Not getting your audio, Ma.Po.Si uncle.
So maybe you can call his mobile and inform.
Man was to be.
I think you can disconnect your video, Ma.Po.Si uncle. Probably that will give you a better bandwidth, for all to listen to your audio. Can you hear us, Ma.Po.Si uncle? Your audio isn't, quality isn't great. Probably you can, disable the video and speak on the audio. Okay, we can see you now, but not able to hear you. Uncle, you can disable your audio, so the quality is better. Okay, I think he realizes the audio isn't great. Okay, so while this is getting sorted out in the, can you hear us, Uncle? think he's dialed on into a separate account. Yeah, so you can just disable your audio on the first one and continue to speak on your phone. Okay, I think we still have voice challenges there. Okay, members, in the interest of time, we would move into our next speaker. While the audio is being sorted out for Vavisu Ankalya. So I'll take over here. To talk about the battle for Chennai. This is one of the close topics which is close to my heart when I read the autobiography of Ma.Po.Si. We as Chennaiites are proud about the city today and proud about the capital being, for Tamil Nadu. But there's so much that, the current generation isn't aware about the battle for Chennai. So, I'll just speak about that much more in detail. To give a small introduction, about Chennai. Chennai is located on the Coromandel coast of Bay of Bengal, where it is the primary cultural, economic and educational center for South India. It is the 36th largest urban area by population in the world. It's also the most visited city by foreign travelers in India, and we also proudly call it as the India's health capital as well. Chennai is also nicknamed the Detroit of India, with more than 1/3 of India's automobile industry being based in the city. The region around the Chennai for centuries has served as an important administrative, military and economic center as well. Chennai is also an IT hub of Asia, a metropolitan with an area of 1,189 square kilometers, and population is around 10 million, which is expected for the current year. I could go on and on talking about Chennai for several hours, but the key topic for discussion is revisiting a very important phase in the history of the city, where there was a strong contention between the people of Andhra and Tamil Nadu, to which the state would be the capital. When the city was almost to be, annexed to Andhra, wherein there were strong voices of a slogan, Chennai Manade, which means Chennai is ours in Telugu, echoed primarily in certain parts of, Chennai city and also primarily in Andhra. There's one man who came to its rescue, almost single-handedly led the agitation with clothing slogans, Chennai Namade, which means, we proudly say Chennai is ours in Tamil. Tale Koduthenum Tale Nagare Kapom, which means we will give our head to protect Chennai. And that is none other than Silambasar MP Sivanyanam, who we fondly call as Ma.Po.Si. Ma.Po.Si is a universal leader, one of the foremost iconic freedom fighters of India, and a leader who changed the identity for Tamils, Tamil language, Tamil culture, and Tamil Nadu. I'll underscore that again. He's a leader who changed the identity for the Tamils, Tamil language, Tamil culture, and Tamil Nadu. Hence, we fondly call him as the father of this state. Like every country, each state in Indian Federation has a name to itself. It has defined borders. It has an official language. It also has an identity for itself with rich culture and traditions. Ma.Po.Si was a champion of Tamil literature. He defined the topography of the state. He successfully retained Tamil, Chennai as the capital of Tamil Nadu. And not to forget that he also led the initiative to name the state as Tamil Nadu. There's so much so that I can, talk about Ma.Po.Si, whose achievement is without any, formal education here. As Krishnaswamy, sir said, he should have been awarded the Bharat Ratna. I would go, cut further and I say that he should have also been awarded the Nobel Prize as well. It would take several hundreds of, such web conferences what we have today, hundreds of research done by scholars in several years for one to know the great man in his entirety. Such is the achievement of this genius, which the failed, and also I would say even India has actually forgotten. Ma.Po.Si stood by his principles and at no time had surrendered to anyone, anytime. Rewinding back to a phase in the Tamil Nadu history, Ma.Po.Si and Thamizhai Kazhagam. Thamizhai Kazhagam is nothing but the cultural and political party of Ma.Po.Si. They were supporting Rajaji's government in Madras presidency post-independence, and at the same time, they were also demanding for a separate state for the Tamils. After taking oath as the chief minister of Madras presidency, Rajaji had first. Just 1 minute. I'll just mute. Okay. Okay. Just revisiting back again. When Rajaji took over as the chief minister, he attended the first general meeting in Chennai, Marina Beach. I suspect that this should be, Sireni Arangam, because some of the greatest meetings have been held at this place, which the 90s and 2000 kids of this generation haven't seen. Ma.Po.Si, during his speech on 15th April 1952, stated the following. He said, "In the Indian Federation, we demand for a separate state of Tamil Nadu formed with Tamil as an official language during Rajaji's tenure. Thamizhai Kazhagam is supporting Rajaji in the hope that he will honor the demand of the Tamil people. Congress had initially also supported the formation of these states on linguistic basis. That was around 1990. I just wanted to remind the audience as well." So following Ma.Po.Si's speech, several Congress committees, city councils, panchayats under the influence of Ma.Po.Si's Thamizhai Kazhagam passed a resolution demanding for a separate state for Tamil Nadu, and they sent it formally to Rajaji. On one hand, as I said earlier, Ma.Po.Si was the guardian of the Rajaji government. On the other hand, he was demanding for a separate statehood for Tamil Nadu. To some extent, it should have been an embarrassment for Rajaji, but he tolerated it. So publicly, Rajaji showed that he wasn't keen on the separation of states on the linguistic basis. Personally, he was keen to separate Andhra as a separate state. He thought that this would save his government at that time from the attack of the communists and also put a full stop to the inner fight, going within the, the Congress unit. However, Nehru had different plans. He thought it wasn't the right time for it. It was during this time that a few Andhra legislatures, brought a resolution in the assembly demanding for a separate Andhra state. As I said earlier, though Rajaji in principle wasn't in favor of it, he mentioned in the assembly that he wouldn't oppose it either. Finally, a resolution was passed later. In his first address in the Legislative Council, Ma.Po.Si strongly pitched for the linguistic separation of states and the formation of Tamil Nadu. It has been said it's one of the finest speeches of all time. The then Finance Minister C. Subramaniam, who later, appreciated and acknowledged Ma.Po.Si that, his case has been presented well with historical facts, but he requested him to exercise some patience here. The demand for Andhra state reached a crucial state when the freedom fighter and Andhra Congress party member, Poti Sriramulu, went on an indefinite fast, demanding for immediate implementation of a separate statehood for Andhra. Ma.Po.Si recalls in his book Yenadu Poratam, which is his autobiography where many of you would have already read. He says that he had great respect for, Poti Sriramulu, who was a Satyagrahi, his companion working for the Congress, and he also recollects that both had been jailed in Vellore during the, Indian freedom struggle. This is another classic example, to show that Ma.Po.Si is a universal leader. Andhra Kesari T. Prakasam Pulusu Sambamurthy had also observed a day fast, with Poti Sriramulu supporting his cause. As we talk about more in detail, you would also get to hear more names who are not only legends of this state or legends of this country as well. Ma.Po.Si was pressed by the Andhra Congress councillors in Madras Corporation to meet Poti Sriramulu, upon which Ma.Po.Si visited Poti Sriramulu and also requested him to give up the indefinite fast. He also met the Andhra Kesari Prakasam, but he clearly indicated to him that if people of Andhra drop their demand for Chennai as their capital, Thamizhai Kazhagam will completely coordinate with the Andhra people on their demand for separate statehood for Andhra. Not surprisingly, Prakasam was angry hearing Ma.Po.Si's response, and he cited the following. The capital of each taluk of Tamil Nadu have grown to be considered as the capital of Tamil Nadu. However, there's no city in Andhra, at that league, even at the league of the E-Road city. Where will they go, if they have a state without Chennai as their capital? Later, Prakasam, during the conversation, he also requested Ma.Po.Si to have, at least Chennai be their temporary capital until Visala Andhra is formed, and they in turn get Hyderabad. Prakasam was in the thought process that if Ma.Po.Si supports it, no one else in Tamil Nadu would primarily oppose it. But Ma.Po.Si had informed Prakasam that even if others in the Andhra government, others allow Andhra government to temporarily function in Chennai, he will never allow it. Ma.Po.Si felt that if Andhra government is temporarily allowed to function in Chennai, this will give them the space and the opportunity to further permanently demand for Chennai as the capital in future, and it wouldn't be an easy task to evict them. During the agitation for separate statehood for Andhra, Ma.Po.Si was surprised by the determination shown by Prakasam to have Chennai as the capital, which actually wasn't a rightful demand. While the emotions were also running on both the sides, Ma.Po.Si doesn't forget to mention his autobiography about the respect, mutual respect that Prakasam and the Andhra people showed to him during these meetings. Um, After a few days, a sad news came in wherein, Poti Sriramulu had died. Ma.Po.Si blamed the then central government for the unfortunate demise of the freedom fighter. Just to remind you all, as I said earlier, Congress had supported the linguistic separation of states since 1999, 1990, 1919, and it should have been implemented on time. Following the disorder in Andhra, Nehru, fearing that things may further get out of control, on 19th December 1952, announced in the parliament that separate Andhra state would be formed on 2nd October 1953. He also mentioned that the state will be formed by joining the districts excluding Chennai, without any conflicts where predominantly Telugu people are living and are Telugu spoken. Nehru made this announcement even without, consulting Rajaji, who was the then, Chief Minister of Madras State, mentioned Ma.Po.Si in his autobiography, which is quite ironical. Although Ma.Po.Si welcomed the announcement, he was also worried that since there's no mention about the capital for the new state, and was angry that Chittoor is also mentioned as a district without any conflict to be part of Andhra. This is primarily because Ma.Po.Si was demanding the talukas in the south of Tirumala to be joined with Tamil Nadu. Ma.Po.Si mentions in his autobiography that he fought several battles working for the welfare of the Tamil people and Tamil Nadu state and for the country, but he was worried and had sleepless nights fearing Chennai would be annexed with Andhra during this battle. This is primarily due to the tireless determination of the Andhra people for their cause and no unity among the Tamils or the Tamil parties during that time. Post Nehru's announcement, T. Prakasam now has a change in demand right now, as history says. Prakasam said that if Chennai isn't part of Andhra, then we suggest splitting Chennai into two, wherein South Chennai is given to Tamil Nadu and North Chennai is actually given to Andhra. If not, Chennai should be a common capital for both Andhra and Tamil Nadu. And lastly, he says that even if both are not possible, then Chennai should be declared as a union territory. Andhra Congress also convened an urgent meeting in Chennai supporting the statement from Prakasam. To solve the disputes related to the formation of Andhra state and an issue related to the capital, a commission was formed by the central government, headed by Justice Vanchu, who's also a very distinguished person in his own right. There was a plan by the Andhra people to show a demonstration when Justice Vanchu was planning to visit Chennai. With that in mind, the Chennai Andhra Parishad was formed. Prakasam also camped in Chennai and organized several meetings in the city to unify the non-Tamils. Ma.Po.Si, on the other hand, was continuing to be worried about the lack of unity among the Tamils on this battle. He says that Periyar stated that what difference does it make when Chennai is in Tamil Nadu or Andhra? Wherever it is in Dravidam. If I have to say it in Tamil, he says that Chennai ஆந்திரத்தில் இருந்தால் என்ன தமிழகத்தில் இருந்தால் என்ன எங்கிருந்தாலும் திராவிடத்தில் தானே இருக்க போகிறது. That's what Ma.Po.Si says that Periyar had stated. Ma.Po.Si also mentions that while Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam didn't go to the extent of Periyar, but he didn't take the responsibility and come forward to lead the battle to save Chennai. Fortunately, Chennai's blessings, along with Ma.Po.Si, it was actually, Sengalvarayan, a close friend of Ma.Po.Si, who was the mayor of Chennai during these difficult times in the history of the city, came to the rescue. Ma.Po.Si was also then the alderman of Chennai Corporation, if you, just to, remind all. Ma.Po.Si conducted several meetings across the city along with Sengalvarayan for the cause of Chennai remaining the capital of Tamil Nadu. The then mayor even went to an extent of threatening that he would cut water supply for the people who were supporting the demand for Chennai to be annexed with Andhra. As expected, when Just as Vanchu, had visited Chennai, there were several demonstrations, held by Prakasam and his followers as expected. Ma.Po.Si met Vanchu in Raj Bhavan. He clearly indicated to him that Chennai would continue to be the capital of, Tamil Nadu, and at any point they will not, let the Andhra government even temporarily allow to function in the city. Ma.Po.Si then, post the meeting with Vanchu, he realizes that it isn't going to be an easy task to make Chennai as the sole capital of Tamil Nadu, since Andhra was charged up. They were well disciplined, well determined on their demands. Added to the problem was also that certain education class in the city were also inclined to have Chennai as a union territory. Ma.Po.Si realizes that he needs to take stronger measures to save Chennai. He now reaches out to all the legislative, assembly members who aren't from Andhra and requests them for a joint statement. And around 200 of them had actually signed the joint statement, and it was sent to Prime Minister Nehru. Along with that, there were also, 32 of the parliament members from the Madras state who aren't from Andhra, also in parallel, who released a similar joint statement. When responding to Ma.Po.Si's question in the Legislative Assembly, Rajaji states, Chennai is part of Tamil Nadu, even if people living in the north of Chennai are predominantly Tamils, and there is no way Chennai would be separated and governed as a union territory. Andhra people have no right to talk about the administration and demand for Chennai. Just to remind them, about 68% of the population is in Chennai are Tamils, and it's only 14% who are actually Telugu. If you drop the demand for Chennai, then I will support the Andhra Friends, a separate statehood for Andhra. It should be noted that during the separation of Andhra state, Ma.Po.Si was also leading his agitation on two fronts. One is the famous northern border struggle, which you should all be aware. He was demanding for Tirupati, and parts of Chittoor to be predominantly annexed with Tamil Nadu. There was a southern border struggle, which was going in, where he was trying to have places in Kanyakumari, Thiruvananthapuram, Sengote, where Tamils are living in large population. And not to forget the last one, the important one, the Chennai struggle, what we're talking about right now. Chennai Mayor Sengalrayan and Ma.Po.Si, then they call for an all-party meeting on 13th of February 1953. Prior to this meeting, they have a joint statement with signature of all party members, and that was being released. To add to that, in 16th of March 1953, Ma.Po.Si and Mayor Sengalrayan, arranged a general meeting in the Marina Beach, wherein all party meetings were invited. In the names of M. Bhaktavachalam, S.S. Karayalar, Muttaya Mudaliyar, and not to forget that Ma.Po.Si mentioned that later even Periyar had actually attended that meeting. Ma.Po.Si knew that the joint statement by the assembly members, the parliamentarians, all the party leaders is not sufficient enough to save Chennai. And if central government decides to allow Andhra government to temporarily function in Chennai, he had his clear plans to fight against it. Ma.Po.Si held the second annual conference for Thamarissa Kazhagam in Triplicane on 1953. That was on 24th and 25th of Jan. This was attended by several famous personalities in the state and the country then. Dr. R.B. Sedupillai, who famously called titled Ma.Po.Si a Selva Selvar, he headed the conference. M.A. Muthaiya Chettiar, T.P. Meenakshi Sundaran also participated. Some of the key other personalities who attended this meeting were T.K. Shanmugam and Sanjeevi Sirgari, G. Swaminathan, Dr. Muva, Nanjil Manivarman, P.S. Rashidachalam, R. Kandaswamy. I'm just reading out so that everyone should attend the amount of personalities who actually attended this conference are Dakshinamurthy, M. Bhaktavachalam, M.A. Chidambaram Chettiar, Janab Abdul Hamid Khan, Narayana Thuraikannan, Namakal Kavanjar, Kundrakudi Adigalar, G.D. Naidu, C. Subramanian, Maragadam Chandrasekhar, Trivi Kalyana Sundaranar, the hero of the Northern Border Struggle, K. Vinayagam, Mangala Kirar, Ira Subramaniam, are among the some of the key people who had actually participated in the conference. R.B. Sedupillai, during his speech in this conference, voices that Tamil Nadu is dependent on Thamarissa Kazhagam and Ma.Po.Si to protect Tamils and Chennai, and is ready to fulfill any command from Ma.Po.Si. In Yenadu Poratam, while detailing this event, Ma.Po.Si mentions that the voice of R.B. Sedupillai is still is echoing on his ears. Former finance minister of the country, R.K. Shanmugam, also traveled on from Coimbatore to Chennai, and he participated in the conference. though he was severely ill. His deteriorated health didn't permit, given the permission to give us, a standing speech to the audience, being seated in the chair. He echoed that Chennai is part of Tamil Nadu, belongs to the Tamils, and Sivanyanam would protect, Chennai. He will recover the Tamil Nadu borders, trust me. After delivering the speech, R.K. Shinmugam then, meets Ma.Po.Si. He holds both the hands of Ma.Po.Si and, wished him, to mention this was the last public event that R.K. Shanmugam had participated. He passed away, within 3 months after this conference, and he didn't live to see the, Tamarasa Karagam and saving Chennai, and Ma.Po.Si. also recovering the borders of Tamil Nadu state and the capital. Vidwan Shiva Kannapanar also participated in the event, and he stated that the entire Tamil Nadu is dependent on Sivanyanam. During his address in the annual conference, Ma.Po.Si. echoes his determination and resolve of Tamarasa Karagam and himself to protect Chennai. At the end of the conference, a resolution is actually passed stating that Chennai should continue to be the capital of Tamil Nadu. The city, should not be given to Andhra or split to form separate capitals for, both the states, Andhra and Tamil Nadu, or be a joint capital for both the states, or Chennai even being declared as a union territory. He says that if Centre takes any of the above steps, Tamarasa Karagam would take direct action. The resolution also stated that Chittoor district should continue to be a part of Madras state, and on the day the Andhra state is formed, a separate state should also be formed, for Tamil Nadu as well. During the first week of 1953, there was a news from Chennai Mail which was published stating that Justice Vanchu had recommended the following to the central government. One, Chennai should be temporary capital of Andhra. Second, Tamil Andhra state should have one governor, and thirdly, both the states should have one court. Obviously, you would have predicted Ma.Po.Si.'s reaction here. It came as a shock for him, and immediately met Rajaji the next day. Rajaji informed Ma.Po.Si. that this could be true and that he is not in a position to say anything else, but advised Ma.Po.Si. to intensify his efforts. Interestingly, within a few days, Rajaji meets Nehru in New Delhi. The meeting didn't give Rajaji much confidence, and he said the following to the reporters, waiting outside for him. If the central government decides to give a place for Andhra and Chennai, I wouldn't be able to implement it. In that situation, I've told Nehru to identify another chief minister. Rajaji immediately travels back to Chennai and meets Ma.Po.Si. and updated him that Nehru and the central government may have decided to give a place for Andhra government in Chennai. Nehru informed Rajaji that he wasn't even keen to discuss about it. Rajaji clearly had informed his position and returned back to Chennai. In a sad voice, Ma.Po.Si. mentioned that Rajaji informed him that it's up to Ma.Po.Si. now to save Chennai. Whatever needs to be done, just do it. Fiery and determined, Ma.Po.Si. later meets M.A. Muthaiya Chettiar. He details his clear plan to save Chennai and requests his support. On the same day, there was thousands of telegrams which were sent, to the then Home Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri from different parts of Tamil Nadu. Telegrams were sent by different institutions, councils, Congress committees, corporations, associations, and from famous personalities. Ma.Po.Si. then advises the mayor to call a special session in Chennai Corporation. He planned to bring a resolution asking the state and the central government not to split the city into two, or make Chennai as a common capital, or make Chennai as a union territory. Prior to this crucial meeting, corporation meeting, Ma.Po.Si. also arranges another general meeting for Tamarasa Karagam in Gokule Mandram, and during his speech, he asked the people of Chennai to gather in large numbers and identify those who are voting against the resolution. During the historical special on Chennai Corporation, Ma.Po.Si. delivers a fiery speech, and he said that we will give our heads to save Chennai. Finally, unanimously, with a majority, the resolution is being passed. A copy is being sent to the President of India, the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, the Chief Minister of the Madras state. I would arguably say that this is one of the crucial moments in the history of Tamil Nadu and the history of Chennai, since Ma.Po.Si. clearly knew that the state or center now will not be able to go against the resolution of corporation members. Within a week, as expected, Ma.Po.Si. meets Union Minister T.T. Krishnamachari, and he mentions to Ma.Po.Si. that Nehru has changed his mind, and after the resolution passed by the Madras Corporation, Nehru had also informed him that it is not feasible to boycott the resolution of Chennai Corporation. On 25th of March 1953, Nehru announces in the parliament that 1. Andhra would be formed on 1st of October 1953. Second, the capital of Andhra will be identified within the state. Third, few offices of the Andhra government can continue in Chennai until alternative arrangements are made. However, the offices of the Andhra ministers, governors, assembly should be within Andhra state. Fourth, he also states that after the formation of Andhra state, border commission or commissions would be constituted to determine the changes in the border. Fifth, Andhra State Assembly members should come together and decide a temporary capital for the state by early July and inform the central government. And finally, he says that the Andhra Assembly should determine where the High Court should be formed within the state. Until then, temporarily, the Chennai High Court will function as the High Court for Andhra as well. This historical battle for Chennai and how it finally continued to be the capital of Tamil Nadu is not known to the present generation. We live in Chennai today as the capital of Tamil Nadu primarily because of Ma.Po.Si, who led from the front and fought till the end to retain the capital, what we call it as India's health capital, the Detroit of India. Chennaiites and Tamils should come together. They should pay a rich tribute for Ma.Po.Si, unite for a cause, for the nation to award him Bharat Ratna. And I would also go to the extent of requesting the state government, on Ma.Po.Si's 115th birthday, to celebrate his birthday, as Chennai Day, which would be the, a fitting tribute to the, the true hero of the city, and also a memorial being formed, in the city for him. Thank you for, for hearing me out. Thank you. Okay. Next, we'll go to Ma.Po.Si uncle back again. Can you hear us, sir, now?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. Are you able to hear us? Your voice, your video is still choppy.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Hello. You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. Yeah, keep
Yes,
going.
we are
Yeah.
able to hear you. We are able to hear you.
Very
Okay, still the quality is bad. Let's do this. I'll let Karthikeyan Pedaswamy, take over and speak next, while I'll speak to Ma.Po.Si sir and see if how we can get the audio and video quality sorted out for him. Karthikeyan, thanks for joining. It's all yours.
Senthil, I need a favor. Can you make me as a presenter? Because I have made a PowerPoint presentation, so that if you make me as a presenter, it will be easy for me to present the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, that's fantastic. Okay,
Thank you.
I've just shared right now.
Yeah. So I guess now you are able to see my PPT. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see the PPT. Yeah.
Okay, it's in presenter mode. Hide the presenter mode. Yeah. Seeing go to meeting. No. Minimize this. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see that, Karthik.
Yeah, I'm beginning. Yeah, just checking whether this is working. Okay, so myself, Dr. Karthikeyan Pedaswamy, I have completed my MBBS from Kanyakumari Government Medical College, MD Biochemistry from Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi. I have completed my senior residency from AIMS, New Delhi. Now I am a research associate in the same AIMS, New Delhi. So I have taken this topic, Ma.Po.Si, a millennial's perspective. So first of all, who is a millennial? According to Cambridge Dictionary, a millennial is a person who was born in the 1980s, 90s, or early 2000. Most people agree the definition is like 1981 to 1996. So I was born in the year of 1987. So obviously I am a millennial, or they also call this as Generation Y. After this, the generation is known as Generation Z. Because why I'm putting this millennial, the importance is this generation is not aware of many important things like Ma.Po.Si. So if you ask this generation, they don't, many of them. So this is a bitter truth we have to accept, because for us Ma.Po.Si is important, but for many of this generation, they're like, who is this person? That's what this generation they think. So as a part of this generation, as a member of this generation, I'm going to present my perspective. So these are the sections I have made. So initially I will first begin with this one, his love for mother. My sister, my elder sister, she just wanted to add my mother's first letter as an initial. For example, my father's name is Bettuswamy, so that is Bettuswamy, that P1. So my mother's name is Janaki, so he wanted to add J also in the initial. At that time, it was like a huge thing in that scenario. But you see, Ma.Po.Si Ayya, his original name is Jnana Prakasam. Because of his love towards mother, he added Sivakami. So Mailapur, then I think Ponnaya is his father's name. So he changed his name to Sivajnanam. So this is a thing we learn from him. So the next thing is about how he is a self-taught scholar. Because of poverty, he could not complete the third standard. He could complete second standard. He could not complete the third standard. But he received Sahitya Akademi Award in 1966 for the book Vallalar Kanda Orumaipadu, the unity seen by Vallalar. So he started reading literature when he was jailed during the freedom fight. You know that many books and all, they are all written in the prison. So prison is not just a place for people to be put during this thing. So prison is a place where a lot of thoughts they emerge. So here I want to make one thing clear. What are my references? Instead of going for second-hand references, so usually people go for the second-hand references, I went for the first-hand references. Ma.Po.Si Trust in their YouTube channel. So if there is any young audience in this group, I suggest that there is a YouTube channel, Ma.Po.Si Trust. I want all of you to watch videos of Ma.Po.Si. So there is a Ma.Po.Si Trust YouTube channel. You can see some interviews of Ma.Po.Si, and you can also listen to speeches of Ma.Po.Si. And there is a website in which Ma.Po.Si's books are all there for free to read. So I have taken my references from these first-hand references only. So whatever I'm presenting, these are all the first-hand reference from Ma.Po.Si. So Ma.Po.Si is saying in one place that he was employed in the printing press. So he wanted to improve his financial condition. So he wanted to become a school teacher. So he was so modest that in that book he is writing that because of my selfish reason, I wanted to become a school teacher. So he is so humble and modest. He's saying he's considering his wish to become a school teacher as a selfishness, but it is not. We know he was just being modest in that. Everyone, they have a right to aim for something great, right? But after reading the literature, he gave up the idea of becoming a school teacher. You know that he became the professor of professors, right? So there is no need for him to become a school teacher. After reading literature, see, then he is also mentioning what is the purpose of reading literature. In the arts field, humanities field, there is a thought that art is for art. So people say like, right, kalai kalai kahave. So, but Ma.Po.Si has an interesting view about the literature. He's saying, I'm not reading literature to pass my time. So many people read literature as a hobby. He's saying a new Tamil Nadu needs to be established and literature needs to be used for this purpose. So this is his interesting view regarding the purpose of literature. And in his writings, so he mentions about the many poets singing high of brutal war amongst Tamil kings. A Chera king being killed by Pandya king killed by Chola king. So those Sangam era in history, so the Tamil kings were fighting with each other. There are certain glimpses. You have Kabilar, you have Avvayar. So these poets, they were trying to unite these Tamil kings. So I was so lucky to read this book, Tamilar Adimayanadu Yen Evaru, thanks to V.K. Supuraj IAS. So he gifted this book some 15 years ago. So this actually opened my eye regarding many things. So Ma.Po.Si also mentioned these things in his books. So that is why he found Silappatikaram to be a true epic which unites Tamil people. You know the history of Silappatikaram. There is no need for me to elaborate. So in Silappatikaram, here Ilango Vadigal, he mentions the Tamil kingdom, Tamil Nadu. So here the Silappatikaram acts like an unity factor in Tamilians. Otherwise, these other poets, what they used to do, they used to praise one king killing the other king. So there were songs in which you destroy the citadel or castles of the king and you sow, I guess, mustard and all, mustard or sesame. So this is a tradition. You destroy the citadel of other king and you sow mustard or sesame. So this you can see in Tamil poems. But Silappatikaram is a true epic. So that is why it seems Ma.Po.Si got attracted to Silappatikaram. Ma.Po.Si, in his own words, he says that he got attracted to Silappatikaram through Bharatiyar. So Bharatiyar is a real nationalistic poet. So through Bharatiyar, he got attracted to Silappatikaram. And we all know in Tolkapiyam, we have this, in the Payiram, we have Vada Venkatam, then Kumari. So most people, they were just using this as an example for Elam Vetrumai Urubu, what in Tamil they call Elam Vetrumai Urubu. So you know, Vada Venkatamum, then Kumariyum. So teachers, this grammar teachers and all, they were using this for many years. But Ma.Po.Si, he saw this in a different angle. So he saw, okay, so if there is Vada Venkatam, so why it is not now the border for Tamil Nadu? Then Kumari, so you know that at those time, Kanyakumari and all, they were a part of Trividangur Samasthanam. So I studied in Kanyakumari Medical College. In my college itself, you see that symbol of that Trividangur Samasthanam. So Ma.Po.Si, he looked at things in a different angle. So now we will look into his personality. As a person, I'm seeing my perspective. So in one incident, in an interview, he's narrating that Aya AVM Chettiar arranged some appreciation function for Kannadasan. So you all know the problem between this Kannadasan and something with the movie, right? Veerapandiya Kattapomman. So Veerapandiya Kattapomman was taken by Bandalu and Kannadasan was taking Sivagangai Seemai. So because of this, AVM might have thought that Ma.Po.Si may not like to come to this function. But Ma.Po.Si Ayya, he asked AVM that, why didn't you invite me to this function? Then AVM told so and so. Then Ma.Po.Si told, you will have no friends if you see only negativity in persons. If you could have invited, I would have definitely come. So this quality we see in Ma.Po.Si. In one place, he's saying that the one who thinks himself higher than the general public cannot be a leader. So this was a true quotation from Ma.Po.Si. Because what we see in today's condition, what leaders think, they think that they're above the masses. So that is the mentality we are seeing today. But Ma.Po.Si Ayya was truly humble and rooted. So that is very important. Even though a tree can go go and reach the sky, but the roots, they have to go into the earth only. So he was rooted deeply. Let me now talk about his sense of humor. So Ma.Po.Si, you know, right? He is a Gandhian. So Gandhiji's quote is this: if I had no sense of humor, I would have committed suicide a long ago. So this was the one thing told by Gandhiji. And here I just want to tell one interesting fact. So do anyone of you know which is the only film watched by Gandhiji? So let this be interactive session. I don't want this to be just monotonous talk. Do anyone of you know which is the only film watched by Gandhiji? Anyone? Am I audible, right, Sandil? You can hear me, right? Okay. So Sendil, I could not hear you. Okay, you are muted. Sendil, you are muted. Okay, fine.
Okay. Is it from AV? I think it's from AVM.
Ramarajam. Ramarajam is the name.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello, Ramarajam.
Ramarajam is the only movie he watched.
So the film is Ramraj.
Great, great, great. So that's what. So this is the enthusiasm I expect from all of the participants. So it's great. So even Senthil, in one interview, Ma.Po.Si Ayya, he fondly recall about Senthil also. So in one aspect, the questioner is asking, what do you think about this today's movies, Tamil movies? At that time, he is telling that in our days, the movies used to be good. But these days, movies, there are a lot of violence. So I have a grandson. So he he won't sit and watch the movie until unless there is violence in the movie. Okay, so Ramarajyam was the only movie that was watched by Gandhiji and it was directed by AVM. So with this fun fact, now let's move ahead. Humor is a virtue for a great leader. So usually in these days and all, you see people making fun of others. So this is an aggressive humor. This is not a way of humor at all. The good way of humor is self-deprecating humor. So you make fun of yourself. So putting yourself down actually can bring you up as a leader. A leader should not be afraid that, okay, if I put myself down, people will see me inferiorly. No, it's wrong. So let me recall certain incidents in which Ma.Po.Si Ayya put himself down, but he expressed humor. So he went to a function in Erode. In that function, he's telling this. In my last visit, Erode was the head of the Tehsil. This time, it is the head of district. In these years, the status of Erode improved and my status declined. So in Tamil, he told that Erode முன்னேறிடுச்சு ஆனா என்னோட நிலைமை பின்னேறிடுச்சு. So people were laughing. I heard people were laughing. So he just put himself down so that people can laugh. There is another meeting. Here he is telling, my only wish is that I want to write and speak every day so as that I die in the stage while speaking. Then the crowd clapped. Then he is like, are you clapping for my death? So he asked that. Then the crowd laughed and one person from the crowd, I could hear his voice. He is saying that no, we were clapping for you to write each and every day. So this is such a personality I got admired. And from the year of 1946 to 1956, he suffered from abdominal pain. So some sort of abdominal pain. I don't know exactly what it is. So he suffered from abdominal pain. So that pain gave him suicidal thoughts. But by just looking at this quote, "Irundamile unnal irundhen," so he mentions this in his book. So he says that "Irundamile unnal irundhen." So by seeing this quote, it motivated him to continue. So this is about how a great person, as a person he is. Now we will go into his views about the Tamil language, Tamil nationalism, a few words. So about the language of worship, he says that to consider only one language as God made and all the others inferior is foolishness. So it's not that only Tamil is superior, Sanskrit is superior. He's saying that all languages are equal. So during my childhood, I used to read a lot of books of Devanaya Pavanar. So here I compare Devanaya Pavanar and Ma.Po.Si. I see that Pavanar will say that Tamil is superior. So, but here you see that there is a person who is so realistic. Ma.Po.Si appears to be more realistic to me. He says that all languages are equal. So that's a good thing. And as I am from medical field, I found this was also interesting. So he, in one place, he is saying that allopathy is not English medicine. Why people are putting this English medical shop? Look at this. So still people are writing English medical shop, English medical shop, English marandu kadai. So he considered this as a inferiority complex in Tamil people or Indian people. He's saying that non-English speaking countries like France and Belgium, they also practice allopathy. The meaning of allo, the allo means different. So it is just allo means different. So it's just a different pati path means it is just path. In Tamil we call padai, right? So path means padai, same different way. So allopathy is a different way. So allopathy is nothing but a scientific way of medicine. So he says that these countries also they practice allopathy. So how can you call this as English medicine? So he was in the favor of Tamil as the medium of language. So with some certain Dravidian politician, he differs in this opinion. So in certain place he is making fun of these people. He is saying that some politicians used to say, right, some people are saying Tamil and English like two eyes of a human. So to avoid Hindi, Tamil Nadu, we adopted English. Even this web conference this is being conducted in English. So we can see the irony, right? So life is full of ironies, but we have to accept that and move ahead. So he's asking, does this mean before of English, Tamils were one-eyed? So he was making fun of this, and he was so in favor of Tamil as a medium of language. So at that stage, it's, I think, from the third standard, the English was introduced. So he was saying that I am opposed to that also. I want only the English to be introduced in the fifth standard, but still I am okay if you are introducing English in the third standard, it is fine. But English should be only a 1 hour course. It should not be the medium of language. So in this aspect, I agree with him, because I studied from first class to 12th class in Tamil medium only, and I could crack this MBBS entrance exam, all these entrance exam, and I have written few books in English also. So it's not that, see, my accent may be different. So I'm not a native speaker of English. So for that thing, I never tried to convert my accent into a native accent, because I am proud of who I am. I am a Tamil. I am proud of my Tamil accent of English. So in this, I agree with Ma.Po.Si. Ma.Po.Si even had a heated argument with A.L. Mudaliar. You might have heard about Mudaliar brothers. So these were twin brothers. Suraj is from medical field, right? So Suraj might have studied, right, in obstetric and gynecology. Deepan, you are also in the web conference. I invited some of my friends also on the conference. Maheshwari ma'am, you must be also knowing, right? Mudaliar. So Mudaliar, he was the vice chancellor of medical university also. So these Mudaliar brothers, so they were there. So Ma.Po.Si was having a heated argument with Mudaliar regarding the medium of language, because scholarly people, they still believe that no, science and medicine, engineering, they can be studied only through English. You see, China, Russia, Germany. See, I was applying for a course recently, so I can tell my experience on first hand. So I was applying for a course, MSc in medical education. So I will do it in near future. So in Harvard, I applied because it's an English medium course, but it is 1.5 crores. 1.5 crores for 2 years. So that then I skipped that. Then in UK, it is 30-40 lakhs. Okay. Then I thought about Germany, but there the problem is the course is free, but the medium of education is in Deutsch. So in Germany, they give a lot of importance to their language. They're studying medicine in Germany, that is Deutsch language only. In China, they learn in Chinese medium, Russian medium. So all those students who go and study in Russia, right? So many of them, they study medicine in Russian medium because it's little cheaper than the English medium medicine. So yes, Tamil can be a medium of language. I agree with that, and he was proud to speak in Tamil in many occasions. So like Senthil was telling, the mayor of Chennai, Madras Corporation was his friend. So Ma.Po.Si was a part of Madras Corporation. He was in that position. So he submitted the budget of Madras Corporation for the first time in Tamil, even though many people were opposing it. So he submitted in the budget. So like Dr. Krishnaswamy mentioned, yeah, this may be something which was the reason for him not being recognized all over India, maybe. So that is why when I was studying in my 10th standard, I decided that I will learn English. So I scored higher mark in English than Tamil. So, and he also fondly recollects Omandur Ramaswamy Reddy giving a speech in Tamil in Tirupati Venkateshwara Oriental University. So Omandur Ramaswamy Reddy, you know, he's actually from ancestry from Andhra. In his family, they speak, maybe they may be speaking Telugu, but in the speech, he gave speech in Tamil only. Then Ma.Po.Si wrote many things about this Tamil encyclopedia. He recollected a lot of events about this Tamil encyclopedia. So you know, Tamil encyclopedia was published by Tamil Valarchi Kalagam. It was the first encyclopedia to be published in any Indian language. You all know about the Avinashi Lingam Ayya's contribution in this. And you see, Ma.Po.Si says that the greatest achievement made in the field of Tamil after independence. So this is what it is about this Kalai Kalanjiam. And it was a combined effort. So it was, the total expense was 14 lakh. The Madras state, you have to think that at that time, it's not Chennai, it's not Tamil Nadu, it was Madras presidency. So all the other states were there. They gave 5 lakhs for the contribution of Tamil encyclopedia. This we have to recollect. Central government 75,000 for 4 years, so 3 lakhs. Even Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, he also gave 50,000. So these are all mentioned by Ma.Po.Si only. So I got quite amused by seeing these facts. So Tamil encyclopedia, quite a great thing. So I have spent a lot of my time in reading this Tamil encyclopedia. So now, having seen my perspective about Ma.Po.Si, now there is a question comes. Okay, Ma.Po.Si is a great person. What is the purpose of learning someone's history until unless you get inspired by him and do something? So that is why I'm going to mention certain few things, that the seed you sow today will give the harvest tomorrow. So we all, the young audience, I request you to do your contribution towards the Tamil language today. So you may ask me, you speak too much, what is your contribution? Usually we ask this, right? So in the year of 2012, in the year of 2012, I recorded this audio about Ma.Po.Si's one story, an excerpt from a Ma.Po.Si's book, Arivu Kadegal. So this is about a story, Kulir Kaya Neramillai. Okay, so at that time I recorded it. So I used to be an active contributor in Tamil Wikipedia. I have written a lot of articles in Tamil Wikipedia. So now because of my PhD and other research, so I am not that active in Tamil Wikipedia. And you see that uh, audio clip has been featured in the article about Ma.Po.Si, and moreover, I was quite amazed to see that in the English Wikipedia there is a page about Tamil. In that page, so someone has given the link of the same audio about the Ma.Po.Si's Arivu Kadegal. So they have selected Ma.Po.Si's story as an example for this literary work. So these were my small contribution, and we were in during my Tamil Wikipedia days, we were looking for a term for child prodigy. So can anyone suggest a Tamil term for child prodigy? Audience, child prodigy, you know, right? Child prodigy is a person at the age, in a very small age, he has the knowledge of an adult. So you know, Beethoven, Mozart. So there are many people who are child prodigies. Can anyone try? So we were also having a trouble during our Tamil Wikipedia days, which is the exact meaning for child prodigy. Okay, let me continue. So at that time, you know, Silappadigaram, right? Silappadigaram, it came to my head. So in Silappadigaram, there is a word, Siru Mudu Kuraivikku Sirumayum Seiden. Kovalan, he mentions that Siru Mudu Kuraivi. Siru Mudu Kuraivi. So this means that in the she has the knowledge of an elderly person at the age of at the young age. So that's why Siru Mudu Kuraivi. So we took from this term and we convert this into Siru Mudu Aringer. So reading Silappadigaram and all, it's not a waste of time. So this is what I want to convey to my young audience, that to the generation Y and generation Z, that reading something will be useful in your field also. Okay. And these days I'm also quite active in converting the Tamil poems like Bharadiyar, Bharatidasan, and into audio video format. So I put something, for example, here Kani Idai Eriya Sulayum. So here I put about the fruits and all. So this video you can see that, see, this has been watched 16,000 times in the 5 years. So I never worry about the results. So in Hindi, they say that karm karo, phal ki ichha na karo. So you just do your things, don't expect any results now. And I also put some videos for NEET PG exam. So this is what currently I am doing. So I that's what I'm not saying that you have to do what I am doing. So you use your creativity. So to pay tribute to such a great personality, Ma.Po. Sivanyanam, what you can do is you can also take his works. So these days, I'm finding his work to be very useful. So in future, I will also record some of his works more. So you have seen that I recorded that story. So I will try to record more of his work in the coming time. So I thank Sendil, Vivi Ganesh, Madhavi Amma for giving this opportunity to express myself in this virtual platform. And I thank all of the audiences for this patient hearing me. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Karthikeyan. It's been, a fascinating speech. I think you've underscored the point that, visual, presentation along with a, voice supersedes anything and everything. And it was rich with content and, and information. We thank you from our bottom of our heart, all the time and effort that you've taken for this session. Okay. So next, we would have our Ma.Po.Si sir, take over from here.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm restricted by connectivity. So the connection is on. Till the connection is on, I will speak.
Sure, sir. I think if you can just disable your video and just speak on the audio, I think the the quality would be better, so people would be able to hear you out. Yeah.
I have put out the video.
Okay. Yeah. Now the voice is much better, sir.
Yeah. Now the voice is okay.
Yeah, much better.
I don't know how much time I can take, but I would rather be I will stray away from my topic and I'll almost do a summing up. Is it okay?
Sure,
I think
sir.
that's all the time. I'll do a sort of a summing up. I'm very happy because of the connectivity. I'm not able to come out with my lecture. But anyway, I heard some good talks, both from you as well. Earlier we heard Dr. Krishnaswamy, then Silvan. And Karthikeyan, I'm really impressed because the first time I'm hearing him, and he has taken so much of trouble to present the case of Ma.Po.Si. But surprisingly, some of the thoughts I wanted to share is presented by Karthikeyan. That is what I understand. And please give him a very big hand for him, because this is one point I thought I was looking at. For example, it depends upon the literature. For example, Silappadigaram was published by Dr. Uvesa in the year 1892. And it was almost about 40 years when Ma.Po.Si took it up. And then Ma.Po.Si himself was about 35 and around that age. And he was in the central jail of Amravati, and where he could find some time. And I always used to wonder, our own youngsters think about the schools as an imprisonment, school as prisons because of their restrictions and regulations. The youngsters think the schools and colleges are prisons. I have heard myself as a professor, people think it is a prison. But Ma.Po.Si took a prison as a school. Ma.Po.Si converted prison into a school and college, and he started reading there. And surprisingly, he collected this wonderful mass of work, Silappadigaram, and popularized that. And what Karthikeyan, along with him, I also thought about this. Why this particular literature? For example, why Bharati? In fact, Ma.Po.Si said, Bharati and Silappadigaram, Milango Vadigal, my two eyes. And these people shaped his idea in literature. I asked the question, basic question, why? Why out of all the literature, when so many people could not even think about talking about Silappadigaram, he made not only Silappadigaram popular, but he conducted every year Silappadigaram Vizha. Nobody has heard about running a Vizha except Kamban Vizha. Nobody thought about that. So my question was this: why Silappadigaram? And the first point is, normally in our Sangam literature and world literature, when two Tamil kings were there, they were only fighting. There is nothing but fight. And Avvaiyar, people like Avvaiyar used to go for mediating, and they were like ambassadors. And in fact, the people have been named as such. Talayanganathu Siruvendra Pandian, things like that. These people have been all the time thinking about fighting only. So this is the case of Silappadigaram, where three kings have been mentioned: Chola, Chera, and Pandian. All the three kings. First is Pugar Kandam is Cholan, then Madurai Kandam is Pandian, and Vanji Kandam is Chera. But they never had any fight at all. So I just thought, very important to present. Another next one was Silapadigaram is one of the finest literature which talk about the ancient history, especially about art and culture. Where Silapadigaram is talking about Madhavi dance, it talks about Tamilisai, and he wanted to popularize that. And the third aspect is again the unity among all kind of religions. For example, most of you know about Silapadigaram. I don't want to elaborate on that. You see, he was talking about Kodugotti and Pandarangam. These are the Kuthu referred for Sivan. And there are another Kuthu called Tudi Kuthu and Kudakuthu. This is meant for Murugan. And of course, there was a Kotrave Kuthu, Saktam. And Vainavam, or the worship of Vishnu, was found in Aichir Kuravai and things like that. And so therefore, the entire body of Silapadigaram was somewhat about the unity of religions. Why talk about that? Ilango himself is a Samana Adigal, Ilango, and he introduced a character, Kaunti Adigal, as a Samana. And they were all not fighting, but they were uniting all the time. So Ma.Po.Si was trying to find about a literature which is able to unite people. And in fact, for him, as this is the point which I find concurrence with a person like Karthikeyan, Dr. Karthikeyan, the literature must be able to unite. Today in Tamil Nadu, there are only two types of Tamil scholars. There are Tamil scholars who are talking about Tamil and the rest with that. There are other people, Tamil, development of Tamil, and they develop themselves, not the Tamil, ultimately. So, Ma.Po.Si was different. He was a Tamil scholar all the time developing Tamil, but he did not develop himself over that. You see, he sacrificed everything. And there is another important contradiction, like Krishnaswamy mentioned. See, he was the person who fought for the frontiers of Tamil Nadu on the northern side as well as on the southern side, and rooted to the soil. All the time he was talking about Tamil Nadu, but at the same time, he never lost the sight of nationalism. The nationalistic idea was ever rooted in him. And that's what Dr. Krishnaswamy also mentioned. From where did he get it? And that is where he was talking about all the time the Urumaippadu. You see, somebody mentioned Vallalar Urumaippadu was his wonderful magnum opus, which got a Sahitya Academy Award. And another thing he wrote was Bharadiyar Urumaippadu. So he was all the time thinking about literature to unite people. And to take out a line from Bharati says, Vaadiya Sendamil, Valgana Tamizhar, Vaadiya Bharata Mani Tirunadu. Okay, first we'll Vaadiya Sendamil. Okay, let glory be there for Tamil language. Valgana Tamizhar, let there be glory for Tamilians. But finally he says the destination is Vaadiya Bharata Mani Tirunadu. So this idea of a Tamil scholar thinking beyond the confinement of Tamil Nadu and think of the India as a great nation, and we are part of it. And that is a rare combination. I don't think after Ma.Po.Si, any of the tall leaders like that have ever emerged from Tamil Nadu, I should say. Forget about the political aspect of it. But even the people, those who are living in Tamil Nadu, people like us, we have been fostered by the great fiery speeches of Ma.Po.Si. We are so many nationalistic fervor. And today there is nobody to talk about that. And that is one thing what I found is a wonderful idea, what I want to share. And that is why his literature was good. That is why I want to call him as a literature par excellence. Literature is for unity. And another thing, somebody, as I was developing on this idea, somebody asked how, have you heard about Dr. P. Varadalajanu Naidu? Anybody? Dr. Varadalajanu Naidu. Yes.
Of course, Varadalajanu Naidu, yeah.
Yes. Varadalajanu Naidu was the former president of Tamil Nadu Congress Committee, under whom Ma.Po.Si also worked. So once Varadalajanu Naidu asked the question, how Ma.Po.Si could be so well read? எப்படி ஒரு பாட்டாளி படிப்பாளியாக முடியும்? You understand? ஒரு பாட்டாளி எப்படி படிப்பாளியாக முடியும்? How a laborer could become a scholar? And surprisingly, you know what Ma.Po.Si writes in his book? He says, நானும் அதே தான் நினைச்சேன். He said, I also thought like that. But he worked very hard for that. You see, when he was living in, he was working in an area called Esplanade. From there, every day of the month he used to, throughout the month, every day he used to go to a place called Sulai, where there was Tirupadri Puliyur Swamigal. He was the important man whose lecture he would like to listen to. Jnaniya Radigal, Tirupadri Puliyur Jnaniya Radigal lecture. He used to walk all the way, no cycle, nothing. He used to walk all the way, miles walk and come back, because he had no money to spend on this. And then he used to go to libraries, and he used to go wherever books were available. He used to say that I was so much involved in reading. I used to read posters also on the roadside. Whenever there is a poster, he used to go near and read the entire poster. So that kind of dedicated work towards learning. And he used to say, Kelvi Chelvam. Kalvi Chelvam is sort of listening is also a very important thing. And his first book he was interested was Gandhi's Satya Sodhanai. Like that, you see, he has worked very hard to come to that position. And finally, in his own book, he writes, I am one of the example where a person who has not got a formal education can become very much literate, and he can become a great scholar. Look at me. I am the living example for that. And that is why to call Ma.Po.Si as a great literary giant is something different from the main connotation and meaning of the dictionary. He goes beyond that. When I say that he is a great literary giant, it goes beyond the limitations of the meaning of the dictionary to say that how hard he has worked towards that. And that is one aspect. And finally, I would like to, I don't know whether much time is there. I would only say that Ma.Po.Si was not a vote bank politician. You see, there are differences in them. People have been trying to use Tamil or the language spirit to divide people, whereas Ma.Po.Si wanted to use Tamil to unite people. And today, even the Tamil-speaking people are not united. And what Ma.Po.Si said was about Tamil and Desiyam. Tamil here and nationality. And today people talk about Tamil Desiyam, which has got a different meaning altogether. We don't need to get involved with that. So he was involved in uniting people, and that is the greatest challenge he had in front of him during his own time. And he was not vote bank politician, but he was a national statesman. He was a nation building statesman. I repeat, he is not a vote bank politician, but a nation building statesman. And this is where Ma.Po.Si stands very tall when compared to others. And reference to, apart from this Silappadigaram, though he is called a Silambu Chelvar, I would also like to say that he was very well versed in Villi Bharadam. Another thing, Villi Bharadam and Kambaramayanam, and of course Bharati. There is no limitation. If you are not, and about Gandhi, if you have not heard Ma.Po.Si talking about Gandhi, you have not heard Gandhi at all. If you have not heard Ma.Po.Si talking about Bharati, you have not heard anything at all. So this is what is my experience has been. And I would like to conclude telling that's a great opportunity. More than what I wanted to talk on this day with a kind of a mishap with audio and all that. But I had a sumptuous evening with beautifully arranged. I was, in fact, to some extent, I wanted Ma.Po.Si Selvan to have an English discussion over this. Even some people may think, why talk about Ma.Po.Si in English? But I want this at least to be recorded and let people in other countries, for example, he has visited Malaysia and Russia and other places, and so many activities, so many people are there in different countries who might not be very comfortable with Tamil, but let them learn it. But at least Ma.Po.Si's idea was a pan-Indian, and was a great champion of the cause of Tamil as well as the cause of the nationalistic movement. And so this is the great opportunity we had. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. I may meet you. I think the provided is good enough. You can listen to my rest of my lecture on 27th if everything goes all right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma.Po.Si sir, for all the guidance and help that you've offered us over the years. It's been a fascinating session. As I said earlier, hearing out from one of the greatest documentary filmmakers of all time, Dr. Krishnaswamy sir, hearing it from a legend like Ma.Po.Si sir, hearing it from a young upcoming thought. I'm sure that he has miles to go, and he would make a mark for himself, in the
Sure.
country, and he'll also make us proud as well. Karthikeyan, thank you for that. Tomorrow we have a session in web conference
Selvan,
in Tamil.
give a very big thanks to Karthikeyan. I want to listen to him more. Give him my heartfelt congratulations. Okay.
Sure, sir. I'm sure that he'll be delighted to hear from you. He's also on the web conference. I'm more keen
He's
to
there.
hear from him.
Okay.
Yeah, he's on the session. I'm more keen to also hear
No,
from him on
Karthikeyan,
speaking.
personally speaking, Karthikeyan, you being, I found through your talk that you have been a medical man and you have been spending a lot of time in compilation of, and I enjoyed your trying to find the Sidhu Mudu Kuravi. Is it Kuravi or Kuravi? It could be Kuravi also. Sidhu Mudu Kuravi, and such kind of, for example, you are right. I have a lot of examples like this where people get involved in old literature and find new words. I appreciate you, my wholehearted appreciation for your continued interest and indulgence in this. And your presentation was very good. You are able to give your thought and make it very easy for the youngsters to understand. My only request to you is, I've been telling Selvan also, please, people like you, go to the schools and colleges, go to the youngsters and tell the story of Ma.Po.Si, which is ever, and also enjoyed the humor about Ma.Po.Si. Ma.Po.Si is great a humorist. Somebody asked him, during his young days, somebody came to invite him for a Pailwan Vira. The people who are fighters and boxers. He said, because of mustache. And once Rajaji said, you have got no face, only mustache. And probably Karthik is also having a long mustache. And once it gray, he may become more connected to Ma.Po.Si. Okay, all the lucks. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing, Karthikeyan. I think your presentation also shows your, past skills on, visual leadership as well. This is something which is broken into simple terms and presented to people. That's what made his Ma.Po.Si sir also say that, this is something that should reach the, the younger generation who are in schools and colleges who've never heard about the true history of our, sacrifices for this state and the country.
So I'm really thankful to VV Ganesh for recommending this. Usually I am in Delhi, AIMS Delhi, so I don't get this opportunity to speak about Tamil personalities and all. So once I gave a speech in Delhi Tamil Sangam in Tamil. So this is the first time I'm giving speech in English also. So I'm really thankful to all of you for giving this opportunity. Otherwise, I always think something about that my English is not that good. So today I could see that I somehow managed.
No, you did very well, and your language skill is very good, and you make others understand your spirit and the clarity of your talk. You are well planned. The clarity is most important in the linguistic skills.
That is where many are lacking these days. So.
And Ramarajyam, the Ramarajyam was written by Vachanam by Devanarayanan, one of my old senior friends who is no more alive. And I am very surprised, pleasantly surprised that you could recall an event like that. The only cinema movie seen by Gandhi. God bless you. Yes, I have so much to hear. I want Selvan to arrange more conferences with Karthikeyan, giving him very free time. Give him an hour of time and let him come away with his ideas so that we enjoy that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sure,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Sure. Thank you all for joining this wonderful session. So we have web conference in Tamil for the next 2 days. Tomorrow you'll have Ganesan sir, you'll have VG Sandoshan sir, you have Karan Nagarajan, you have some fiery speeches coming from one of the youngest speakers, like Tamal Saravanan, Thirumaran, fantastic speakers, who have come across, and they've given me impressive regards about them. I'm sure that all of you should also take that opportunity to listen to them. We have Dr. Suraj, who's also participating in another fantastic Tamil web conference on 27th, which is continued. We also have a Ma.Po.Si sir participating, and Karthikeyan, not to forget to mention, Ganesh is also speaking on 27th as well. So you should look forward to hear from him.
Yeah, I will attend every day.
Excellent.
I think
Thanks, Steve. It's been
speaking, Selvan, 27th meeting, I think we must have some time for discussion and questions. So people like Suraj Subramaniam and Karthikeyan and such people, those who have attended today, can come there and also ask questions, and we'll find time for that. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll do
of
that.
course.
Yeah. Definitely, that will make us an a very interactive session, just not going one way.
Yes, sir. Yes. I'm very happy. Very happy. This Sir Engarkar Krishnasamy sir is there on the panel still.
No, he's actually he's left the meeting. It's
I see. We'll invite him. Thank you.
Thank
Please
you.
tell your friends to join us. All of you, all the people those are assembled, please. I saw only maximum 15 today, and we have been on the customary level of reaching about minimum 100, 200 people on these kind of. This is, of course, GoToMeeting. We are normally the Zoom and others. Cisco meetings are there, and today somehow GoToMeeting. Not many people could join. Something I think some of the phones they are not able to download. Some people told me they are not able to download GoToMeeting. They need the latest version or something like that. So probably within 2 days they'll find a method to download this. I want at least about 100 people to join. It can accommodate how many, Selvan?
This is maximum 250.
We should strive for that, and I will also do that. All of us pick up our mobile phone and try to reach out our own friends who are under the lockdown, corona out, and we'll try to bring them out. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you all for joining this session. It's been a fantastic evening. Thank you.
Thank you.